Well, hey, look at that, we're live.
Oh, so we are.
Well, you know, we're sort of lagging a bit, so it's not truly live, is it? But we'll just call it not dead. So we're not dead on air together, and we're doing Dragon Age RPG Vidcast 61. How have we come this far, Laurie?
It's just your courtesy and determination, from what I can tell with how the players are like with their characters.
As always. Right, so we're going to try to expedite this recount of the session. This is the continuation and thus finishing of the Blacksand book, Fighting Fantasy Conversion. Again, notes below in the info bar to get at the conversion notes. Right. They'd almost finished, haven't they, you lot?
Oh yeah.
Knew where the
Just
cultist
the version
base.
we had last year.
You knew where the base was.
Yep.
You didn't go out of the game this time and break it in quite the same way. You kind of went for it direct and decided to head for the base. Now,
Yep.
there was a bit of dilly-dallying getting in because no one wanted to go through the front door. And what it actually turned out to be, the building itself was just a front. So the
front door was locked, and our rogue decided instead of trying to unlock the door, I'm going to climb around the side instead.
yes, he went round a back alley and then found a window that he climbed up to, and he scratched his hand trying to climb first, and then managed to make it, and then got in to the building, and then didn't let the others know what he'd done, and then decided to just wait up in the room rather than sneak about and try and come down. And this is, of course, Pete's pirate. Chris's new character, his mage, is playing at this point. But, you know, the arcane warrior, Chris, wasn't there, so he still hasn't been given a name, so we're just calling him Chris Mage. Chris's mage. And Laurie was playing him at the table just to sort of make up the numbers for the group for him. So,
Yeah, well, Chris might not have been there, but his spirit was in the dice at least.
it's yes, the various many failures that incur upon Chris's character's chances of survival. Although, you know, he's only had one death, and that was obviously last session.
Yep.
Yes. Right. And of course, it was foreshadowing to a Pete character dying. I mean, as soon as any character starts dying, you know, Pete's character gets a smell of that, and he's like, people are dying. People are dying without me. I'm dying. Let me die too. Great, isn't it? Right, so, anyhow, pressing on, trying to keep the throat alive. Damn viruses. They're all against me.
Yes. Well, yes, moving along, we all managed to get inside, apart from the animals, because they can't climb stone cocks.
No, here's the thing.
And Craig and his...
He could have snuck downstairs and let you in.
Oh, he did.
You didn't hear anything. And in the end, people ended up having to go and climb up, like you say, up into the window with him, and he decided to wait there and wait for everyone.
Yes, and Karak's like, okay, so I'm going to cast stone shape earth to make the cock handle.
Yeah. Yeah, he made some nice stairs to make the way up the building and into the window.
Yeah,
so
that's what he does.
You saw that the rooms were actually bare. I mean, there was a bed there, but there was no mattress on, and you know, nothing's been used, and there's no footprints in the dust, and it's just the whole thing is a front. And you got looking around, and then you found the basement. You could hear very minor chanting, and went down the stairs of the basement, and found there a locked door with actually a very simple manner in which to decipher it. The manner to decipher it is not in the notes because that has been taken directly from the computer game Amnesia: The Dark Descent, which is a little puzzle that you do with rods with names and three shapes being
Now,
like...
not having played Amnesia, I could tell that this puzzle was like we've got to put these things in here, but I didn't know if we were messing around trying to figure out an order to the system or if we just had to put them all in.
Yeah. Well, it was just kind of like clues in their names, giving the suggestion to which shape it should go to. So, like the circular flow one would be the circle and this sort of thing, you know. What was it? The triangle was...
I can't remember, right? But yeah, basically it's like triangle to the triangle, square to the square, circle to the circle. But
and then when you managed to actually get them in, even Jez was saying, "Is that it? That's a bit pants, isn't it?" I said, "Well, that's a genuine puzzle that is in a computer game. You know, that's there to stump some people." And I said, the balance of it was if you had have got it wrong, you would have suffered terrible consequences from kind of magical feedback off the door. And of course, the other thing was the wards went down.
Yes. But because we'd been so bloody noisy getting in, it didn't really matter.
No, they knew you were there. You were failing stealth tests. Or at least enough of you were.
Especially like this, I'm like, should I even bother rolling? I mean, it's just like our rogue here has just gone and been a complete and utter clutch.
Yeah. When the rogue goes along, he's like, "Don't worry, I'll lead the way." Trip, slam, face plant. You're like,
okay.
Okay.
And then this is like, I'm the one in heavy plate. I'm not even going to bother rolling at this point if the rogue's doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
This always happens in any game we're playing when it comes down to it. I mean, I remember when I was playing my arbitrator in Dark Heresy, and then Pete frickin' or Psychic comes along who breaks everything in the room, and I'm like, what's the point in me rolling this test?
Yeah, very true. Yeah, it's a bit like my assassin in Dark Heresy. He's a sneaky sod, very high agility, but you know he's crawling along. He's crawling along, and then he ended up at someone's feet like that, and then looked up at them.
Yeah.
He's like, "Hello, I'm testing your security." You failed.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, so the door was opened, and cultists were waiting for you. Like about 4 cultists at the bottom there. Now, this wasn't supposed to be too difficult an encounter initially, but this was a graded steps encounter, and given the right set of circumstances, the things that I knew were in place in this room would potentially prove to be lethal. So,
possibility of I don't know, like 4 silent deaths at once at the very least there.
So I graded it as, okay, danger level 1 when you get into the room, which is not too serious, just 4 cultists in front of you, and some of the people were hanging back behind the door and then coming in and starting to shoot, and there was a bit of mine blasting, and they went down and kind of damaging out of them a bit of like cross this way, that way, and engaging.
Yeah.
And as they were going down, they were rolling these wooden ball structure things that have basically they've been they've had bound silent death. And we ended up with a total of 3 spawned eventually throughout the fight, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And overall, with the 3...
This is the point where I just basically used Chris's own character's spell list to its fullest, like Grease, Fireball, Flaming Weapon.
It was very effective, yeah, the Grease. And the grease did stop one of the wooden balls from rolling along the floor enough, because one of the cultists went down. He got the bound wooden ball free and tried hurling it along the ground, and obviously it hits the grease and comes to its stop, not going as far. If that had have landed amongst the group and then popped,
would have been a whole different kettle of fish.
because you remember that right at the very beginning of the module, one got its hands on Amelia.
Oh yeah.
And the strangulation became scary.
Oh yeah, it's like 30, 40 fucking a turn and damage.
Well, yeah, that's big. Its strength just exponentially grows per turn. So when it's putting that strangle on you, incredible. But yeah, you handled it with the fire, setting the slick on fire. Chris has built a very strong character, and another thing was the turning point was the fact that they put on flaming weapons as well for everyone.
Yep. That's an extra 6 points of damage.
Yes. Now that also meant that the pets, the animals, were able to do magical damage through their little claws and being aflamed. Their little flaming claws.
Yeah.
Tiny little claws. It's not really tiny, and there's a big red lion, but
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So they. I mean, that was danger level 2. I mean, that's really deadly as it is, and the cultists didn't last long, and when the silent deaths...
like, oh, we can't reach them, so let's have the cultists.
Exactly, they've got a limited reach. That's the whole point. That they're kind of like smoke bound to this object, and they can only like stretch a certain radius out away from it before they stretch themselves too much. And it got to the point where these things are stretching for the party, and they can't quite reach them. And I hadn't set it that way. It was just random because we were using a whiteboard and we had miniatures, and I was drawing the silent deaths into place. I was taking a tape measure and then measuring their reach, and then I could see that the players were able to stick their backs against the wall and shimmy along, thus avoiding. I mean, you've got these hands in front of you grasping right in front of your face, like that, but still just avoiding it. And then getting to engage them from a range and bring them down, and people going around the room, and then the head cultist came in.
Yeah.
And he was quite pissed off with the group. He came in through another door. Also, the room, it had an altar at the end, and the area around the altar was on fire. It was aflame, and there was all this blood on the altar, like some sacrifice had happened. Lots of running blood. And behind that was a big statue of a brass man. Massive statue.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, just imagine if this was a TV series. You'd then be able to buy that statue in Forbidden Planet.
Yeah, it was, yes, indeed.
They'd probably, however, sell it as a diorama post with what happens next.
Yeah. Most likely.
But we'll get to that. Hold on. So
the
head cultist, he's a spellcaster, and he's trying to do a bit of the old Hadouken, but he's outnumbered. He knows that. He can only do so much. Blacktail runs to him. He's like, "I'm gonna no bite chomp you." And the group are moving using the pillars, multi-columned pillars that are holding this ceiling up. 2 rows of them, using them as cover, effectively. And so already you've just breezed past danger level 2, and I'm thinking to myself, that could easily have just wiped a group.
Well,
those 3 silent deaths.
Let's put it this way: if we had all 5 at the time all at once, then we would have been completely and utterly fucked, I would think.
But they're balanced by the fact that they're bound in place. I was very careful to make sure that the
True, that's my point. If we had all 5 of them in play at once, they would have been spread across the board, and it would have been guaranteed that maybe at least one of them would have been in range of us at any good point in time to hit us.
Yeah. But as it was, they did more damage to their masters because they're the only things they could reach. And then the head cultist, having not really succeeded very well with his spells, being very ineffectual, Blacktail had run up to him and was going to bite Chomp, but then the cultist was reciting all of these evil words, and Blacktail was like, "Oh,
I'm not having any of that." It's like, and he couldn't
turned right around,
fast enough.
Turned right around and started scampering away. And
nope.
with a good job, really, because what was then summoned, I took straight out of an official Green Ronin PDF that you can buy. The Alien Horrors one. I took the Celestial Spawn because the Fighting Fantasy book did state that they summon a demon spawn and this sort of thing. So I thought, Celestial Spawn, Demon Spawn, we've done the kind of Cthulhu thing before, that's cool, so we'll have a summoning time on it as well. So I decided to put all that kind of thing in. I don't think I've put all that in the conversion notes file. Normally you'd have to suffer a summoning time and that sort of thing. But the group, where they'd kind of screwed themselves in the past, back when they were in Freeport in the secret Hasta Cthulhu type mode base, and they did the ceremony and became initiates then of Hasta, the unspeakable one, or even though I just spoke him. They are then all initiates of the Order, and then they were able to be used as foci to help quicken the summoning.
Well, it doesn't help that we had two people there who were present for the whole tentacle horror summoning bullshit.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. You know, they were used as conduits to aid the summoning time speed thingy. So this thing pops up, and its first order of business is to pick up the person who's been imprisoning it over this time and say, "Yeah, you're going first," and chomp, and eat him in one go. And I think that kind of set the tone for the group. It's like, he's just been got rid of in one go. Don't let that happen to you.
Yeah.
And it's only a +3 to hit. So you can imagine if it does hit, if he does swallow you whole.
If it does hit, it's probably going to proc on some characters. Anyway,
it's going to be pretty bad to get back out. And it was powerful in its own way.
Oh, yes.
This is supposed to be danger level 3 at this point. And the group, how do you feel about that fight? Do you think it was dangerous at all to you?
It was dangerous, but we had an easier time of it due to Chris's character being there. It sped up the process of how much damage we pulled out on it, because there's like cast flaming weapons and keep it going.
Yeah, spend the extra mana to extend.
That's like 4d6 on Tanado before he starts throwing around lethal blows and mighty blows.
Quite scary. So yeah, it was a case of chopping that thing's tentacles apart. Wow. Yes. So much damage that even the tentacles that are chopped off get chopped in half once more.
I'm just saying, if it wasn't this particular group, I think there would have been a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, that's understandable. So then, you killed it. Obviously, just masses of damage. Nothing it can do against that. It's the same old mentality with the Dragon Age mechanics, isn't it? That someone needs to. When you get a boss, you'll just gang up on it and you murder it until it dies from it.
Yeah, so it was on its death throes and tried to swallow Tannehill.
Yeah. It managed to actually finally get him in, and kind of too late, because as it died, we didn't really get to see the full effect of of it swallowing him alive, and he cut his way free, and it all dissolved around him, and then he was gone and up and all this. So, yeah. So then what happened next, Laurie? Where did you go next? Into the side room, wasn't it? You tell us all about that.
Well, we went in there. I remember when we played this through before, there was a small little trap in one of the drawers, but...
Yes, go on, carry on.
Yeah, but we never got around to that bit because we just looked at all the stuff on the table. And finding the information about how Brass was meant to be the sacrifice for the awakening of the man of Brass, which thing outside the room. We guessed as much anyway.
The god of Elim. This is his avatar, and of course, the note was signed by someone, wasn't it? The whole murder and because remember the party are on because their murderer of Zortenthrog made things worse.
Yes, and we're not sure how that happened until we found out that this Elim is super head cultist, which is based in wherever the hell it is Sargon. You know, the guy we brought back to life with the gem.
Yes. Now you weren't being railroaded into doing that. It was just the obvious, easier way of doing things. There was actually a way.
By the death spell in that, it would have been fucking out.
Well, yes, that and taking on the maze, because he gave you the directions of how to find it, and basically the sewers would have been a maze-like system to navigate.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it would have been probably difficult to do.
Yeah, exactly. So then, what have we got? Well, we've got let's see, creaking sounds, metal, like a brass trumpeting horn thing that's really loud and makes you cover your ears. And I think everyone knew what was happening, didn't they?
Yeah, well, considering the letter pretty much stated that Brass's sacrifice is a rather ironic twist into awakening our man of Brass.
Yeah. It did kind of
brass statue outside.
Give that away, didn't it?
2 and 2, 2 and 2. What does it equal? 5?
Yeah.
But this group it usually does.
It comes alive, it steps down off the pedestal, and it starts going mental. It's got a huge health pool, and it puts out an absolute assload of damage if it punches you. But it did have another mechanic in place as well, which was just to be different, just to do something a bit different. It's got a good anti-mage abilities to it. It has all magical damage, doesn't it? Or incoming received. It's got good magic resistance anyway. It's got the heart of the mage beating inside of it. And there was also another clue there in the note before about the oil of life. And if you'd have done the find more information type stunt, you would have maybe been told by Mr. GM here that the navel appears to be a sort of cork that you can dislodge, maybe.
Of some variety.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And had you managed to get a direct hit on that, you would have effectively made the thing start to bleed out. So, something that seems to be impossible to kill, again, there's an Achilles heel of some sort. Well, everyone were making the jokes and actually trying to hit it in the heel.
Well, it was a bloody huge creature as well, so...
Yeah. But anyway, the problem of fighting down there was that you couldn't really get away from it, and that it was smashing through pillars trying to get at you. And in some cases, grabbing the bits of broken pillar, and then throwing those bits of pillar at other pillar and smashing them, and all this going on.
So, multiple pillars coming apart in relative succession.
And it was around about that time, when he asked for 350, that I thought, That's the luckiest monster. No, and then you all decided.
Wrong theory.
You all decided as a group. We need to get out of here fast because this room's going to come down on top of us.
And probably the whole building.
Run! And it starts chasing you and smashing through pillars in the process of chasing you. And you run up the stairs, and it just walks straight through the door and through the wall, and its head comes through the floor as it's walking up after you. And you get out onto the street, and everything's silent and peaceful, and no one knows what's going on, and you're looking around, and you start running down the road, and then you hear this smash sound. And you turn around, and the thing's just walked out through the wall. And then within moments, the serenity of the city, relative serenity of the city, I mean, serene as Blacksand can get, the muggers stopped with their stabbing and looked around. The people who were being mugged stopped with their pleading and whining and reaching for their stabby thing. They stopped and looked around. The birds in the trees all went quiet and stopped and looked around. Kind of the style of when Maestro appears and does something, a drop spell or whatever. and
Blacktail's standing there like, no, look what you fucking done this time.
Yeah, Blacktail's like, you think I got dog's breath? But told you so. I knew it would happen. But you don't speak Mabari, do you? Anyway, yeah, you know, I had the theory of relativity and space-time down long before Einstein. But you don't speak Mabari, do you?
Mabari.
Yep. New meme created. Right. Anyway, it's in the loose. Everyone in the city starts jumping on it, jumping off roofs, grabbing it round the necks, trying to get it. It's picking people up, slamming them into the ground, making red paste out of them. It's just
multiple different guards running in with their bone whistles and whistling.
It all kicks off, doesn't it? People are opening the shutters and windows and firing things at it and throwing things, and it's just mad.
None of it's working.
Just thoroughly surrounded. And you can only convey that a certain amount. You can say, there's riotous crowds surrounding it and there's all this going on. But over time, as the combat goes, you can't keep that conveyed, can you, without some sort of visual changing image? Or else you just kind of like yapping words. But,
look, there's an image in the book that shows what's happening.
We did manage to show you that still image at least. Which was great because he's like punching through a building and smashing all that up, and people are jumping on it and stuff. Now you came up with a plan in the end. Oh, let's quickly tell you what the Heart of the Mage does as well. It's a funny thing because it's got a special mechanic in place that if you roll to hit against it, with your magical weapons that you've all got, and you roll a 12. Yeah. Effectively, its defense or what have you. We then also said if you roll a natural 12 or it ends up as a 12 or whatever, then you would have like a effect of the magic of the heart pulling at the magic of the weapon, like a magnet effect. Someone said, "Oh no, brass isn't magnetic," and I said, "Like a magnet effect, because it's magic. It's magic. That's the answer to everything."
Yes, it's magic. I don't got to explain shit.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was Craig because he's got this whole law on how things work when it comes to stuff like this.
Yeah.
And stuff does.
It's okay because this was something in place beforehand. It was there in the file. It said Heart of the Mage. Yeah. We're okay. It's supposed to be magic. It's not a cop-out. Right. And what basically happens is it does a strong disarm attempt with its spell power. It uses its magic effectively, even though it doesn't have mana and casts spells. It's a kind of magey golem in that way. It's a very strange creation. that I've basically just taken a skill and stamina thing from Fighting Fantasy and really tried to flavour it up and give it something in Age, as you have to. And yeah, it's loose and doing its thing, and it's basically it's a massive disarm attempt against 18, and I don't think anyone got disarmed because they're really imba, and you decided, right, we're going to encourage it to the docks, like a dry dock kind of area, and try and get it to fall in, wasn't it? Oh, has Laurie disconnected? He appears to have disconnected. Well, I shall keep pushing on anyway, nonetheless. So, the team wanted to try and bring him to the docks, but I had to work out how many rounds it was going to take, and it was going to take 6 rounds. Now, they had to keep damage on it to keep it coming, so they all decided, right, we're going to work it, but as we're working it, let it be also the fact that we are walking it, heading it that way. So, as such, they're putting the damage on, but the damage was actually quite high. So high, in fact, that it managed to kill the thing before they could even get it to the docks. And I mean, I gave it 360 health. So, yeah, the party are kind of crazy. They're only level 10, and they're able to put out damage like that. And, wow. I kind of think they'd have a chance taking on the Archdemon, in fact. Why not? Yeah, why not? I've got to invite Laurie again. Let's see if that's something that's got to happen here. And click. Right. So, they took it down. It fell with a big smash and a crash. And that was essentially the adventure over. And of course, it was one of those situations where we had to run out quickly. Everyone had to get going. We were just against the time limit. And so, yeah, we leave. And great session down. There's Blacksand finished effectively. I always feel uncomfortable with the wrap-ups in these things, trying to... because you've had the climax, and you don't want to come across anything that's too anticlimactic, do you? How to wrap these things up, and inevitably it comes down to roleplay. But because I knew that the characters were going to still stay in the city, there was going to be a bit of aftermath to some other things, so I decided that was going to be the wrap-up. So the guys are in the city. Now, we know, that's the adventure done, that's Blacksand's side of it done. Here's what else is going on. Oh, just a giant golem thing that smashed up a load of the city. All in a day's work for a city guard of Blacksand, So then they decide that they're going to try and get better, because 2 of them... Hello again, Laurie.
Yeah, hello. Don't know what the hell happened there.
I've just got to the point where the aftermath type stuff. So what's going on with the aftermath is that the 2 of the parties still have that mysterious pox illness, and it's starting to show visibly. That would be Tanador and Karak.
Yeah.
Those that didn't get blasted by the blister staff weren't cured, ironically.
And those who aren't already dead.
They are exactly. They're starting to show the signs of it now, so the pox and the marks all over the skin and these things happening. Pallid, a bit of a cough, these things. However, some of the very weakest people in the city have already succumbed and are at very late stages and or dying already. And it's spreading across Blacksand. People are getting sick. You've brought this to Blacksand. And then, of course, all the other characters... All the other characters are surrounded by it and have to probably test again to not
Most likely.
contract it. And the problem is that Blacksand's borders have closed down. So they've got they've stopped the ships from coming in and out now. They've closed up the gates and they've put so many city watch on them that anyone trying to come and go is murdered. 1111. And how are you going to get home? How are you going to get out? That's the problem. And you know, you might think, oh, I'm going to go to Nicodemus and ask him to try and cure it. He's ill in bed with it. He's got the pox.
Yes, of course he does.
So, he's not taking visitors right now.
Yeah, he wouldn't be taking visitors during this one either.
Well, no, he was available actually.
Or was he? He wasn't fighting some big ass demon thing.
No, he was available. No, because the Balrog, I guess, had to go on a school trip, so he didn't have to go meet the Balrog and tell it can't pass this time. So, effectively, the scene was there, and if you had have bothered him this time, he would have gone nuts at you, Grey Wardens or not. It was there.
Oh, God.
We did have a scene.
Like,
Yes, I'm going to turn you into a newt.
a newt.
Even worse, I'm going to turn you into something a newt would eat. And then I'll turn your friend into a newt. And even though he likes you, he will feel compelled to eat you.
And then I'll turn this person into something that eats newts.
And there will be a chain of pathos. And I will sit back and enjoy it. Because television hasn't been invented yet.
Right. What's a television? You'll find out if you survive long enough.
Yeah. So,
Oh, dear.
everyone's getting ill. You've got that to deal with next session at number 62. How are you actually going to get out of the city?
Yeah, just bribe someone.
Well,
Something works around here, don't it?
yeah, but you know they've closed all of the docks down, and that's a that's an issue you're going to have to face. So that leaves us on 61 wrapped, and we'll see what the party are going to do. They've effectively got nothing else to do here in Ravane, so they're due to go back home, and when they do, a certain Ferelden Grey Warden will be waiting for them, specifically to speak to Karak on official Grey Warden business, none other than Duncan. And the year is 928, and Duncan's is going to tell Karak and the group of an official mission that Karak has to undertake. So, we will be heading into Chris Primus's Duty Unto Death. See you there for the next session. Was there anything you wanted to add, Laurie?
Not really, no, I don't.
Right, we'll cut it there. And until next time,
The only
I'll see
thing
you.
is if Karak can actually survive to get to that point of the mission.
Karak and Tanador have to test to see if they live through the pox. And, you know, elements like that are actually, to me, more realistic to a medieval type world. Because, you know, everyone looked vile, ugly, stunk, had things wrong with them.
Yes, but then again, also soap was just as bad as any disease back in that time, anyway.
Yes. Well, yes, there you go. And then if you did manage to die, maybe they could make soap out of your body. So, until next time,
Right.
I'll see you at the table.